Hello, welcome to the second part of the project execution. We'll start with where we left. So, slideshow. So for the realization, right? This is where we do, as I mentioned, we do all the main work for the development aspect. So going to let me change the mouse as a pointer, and let me also change the pen width to thin. Okay, that's fine. So for the realization, we're going to review the technical design, unit test, development and unit test, peer review, functional design, test document, and integration test document. So what is a technical design document? It is a document that we must have before we initiate the build or the coding, and it defines the object functionality from a technical perspective. It must contain the pseudocode. It also defines the object level security and the platform that this program is going to run, and contains a unit test plan. Because once I do the coding, I need to make sure that I do the unit test as well. And the owner of this document is the developer or the senior developer. The next part is the unit test document. It contains the unit test scenarios, because what are the different test aspect of that particular object, and it must validate all the checks that are related to field definitions and program logic. It also validates the testing must be done for the validate the efficiency of the logic. We might do like a bulk test or a load test. Then we also have the validate application and system security as applicable, and that also defined by the developer. And then once we have the in development the unit test document and the test plan and the technical design document, then we're going to do the build. We're going to build the code. We'll start coding, and we'll do the unit test execution per plan, and then we're going to update the unit test document with the test results, and we're going to mark the unit test as complete, and we're going to proceed with the next step, which is the functional test. And the owner of this one is the developer, that is gonna make sure that we have the technical design document, unit test documented, tested, and completed. So we'll now go and take a look at the templates that we're going to use. So for a technical design document, so yeah, it's going to start with the technical design document. We're going to also have the object name, that what this object is supposed to do, just from the naming convention, and the ABAS project ID. And like functional design, we also have different sections in the technical design as well. And it has four sections: object scope, technical design detail, the test plan, and the project and document management. Test scope also has four different sections. First one is obviously the object name and description. Then we're going to have the developer detail, who is developing it, what's his role, which organization he belongs to. Then on section 3 we're going to have what version of this object, and the functional design link that this has been coded for that first functional design and the function. Then we're gonna also list out the object dependencies, that if it is dependent on some operating system or any network or applications, and also we're going to list any impact on dependence on the deployment. Coming to the technical design, we're going to also do the brief description of the object from the technical aspect. we're going to also put the object naming convention. What are the different program naming convention, the subroutine naming convention. uh, so all those things we have to detail out over here. Then we're gonna have the programming standards and platform, how we're gonna do the text, or I mean the notes within the program logic, how granularity we're gonna have in the whether it's object oriented programming or it's sequential, and how the call is gonna made. So we're gonna define all those programming standards, and any platform dependent logic that we may have. uh, then we're going to have the program logic or the pseudocode, how we're going to use the database tables, what are the beginning of the code, submodules, routines, interactions with other objects, interaction with other applications and interfaces. Then the security, if any security checks this object will do, and who is going to run this object. For example, if it is an application inner object, that one application object call this object, or it's a report, or it's an interface run by user to extract the data. So in that way we'll know that what is the object relationship with the user, whether it's somebody online running it, or something that we can schedule to run in a batch fashion. After that, we're gonna have the test plan, the unit test document, and then we're gonna have the record of revision and the document management. So we're gonna start the initial version. Then once that version is complete, we're gonna make it the final, have it share it with the tech functional design team, and have them sign off, and then the development starts. Now I will go to the unit test documentation. For the unit test, you can see that we'll have this program that what you're going to write. It will definitely link to a module or the functional design, right? And it can have multiple programs of the objects. So for every object, right, we can have multiple test descriptions, because if you recall that for we have to make sure that all the field level checks, all the if and logics, that have to be tested and documented. So initially what we can do is that we can start with a rough unit test plan. Then as we write the code and we see there are new test plans that has to be tested, so we just record them, but at the end of your development, you just make sure that you do all the testing that was initially and we added, and then we go through all the tests, we expected results, actual results, and status pass and fail. So we need to document all those things, because what happens that a good unit test prevents any failure in the functional and integration test. So we have to make sure that we pretty much capture all the test steps and we don't miss anything. Going to presentation. So once the unit test is done, then we're going to start the coding, right? And so this is where realization piece, development unit test, this is where it ends with the test plan. And the next step is the functional test, because it's also we did list it out in the functional design document. So and we're going to execute part the functional test plan, and the scope of the functional test is the module and its submodules. What will result documentation, and it is a must pass that it has to be completed before we start the integration test. And the owners of this one are primary is the functional designer, as secondary is the developer, because any failure in the functional test will go back to the developer for him to fix it, move it to quality again, and then the functional test is going to start. I'll review the functional test document, how it looks and how we are going to document and record those. So for the functional test, as I said, we're going to do the testing based on a module basis, right? So it is going to have two different tabs. One is the header, where we're going to record the tester name, who is testing it, his email, date the test is being done, functional designer name, email, developer name, email, and the overall status. And it can be 0 to 100%. So if we start something, we'll put 25% if we start the testing. And at the end of the test, when everything is complete and all the results are good, we're going to mark that as 100%. Coming to modules tab, as I stated, is we're going to do the functional test based on a module. So if you recall from the functional design document, right, we had multiple modules, and one of them was ABAS login. And in that module, there are multiple functions, right? The launch URL, then log into the portal and log out from the portal. On the launch URL, the step, the test description is type the URL in browser, right? The expected result is that display of ABAS, login portal. Check for ABAS logo, DXGrid logo, username, password fields, login button, and form text. So these are the details of that screen that we documented in the GUI, and we have to make sure that all those are showed up during the functional test. Then we're gonna mark the actual result, saying that if each one of those looked okay, and if it is, then we're gonna mark it as pass. The next function is the login to the portal. So we're going to enter the username and password and click the login button, and then we're going to expect the results as that, as we mentioned the GUI, that it will show up based on different roles, right? And we also note the actual result and the status as well. And then we're going to do the logout. So for a given module, we list the functions. Over here we put the test descriptions, we document the expected result, then we run the test, put the result over here, and put the status as pass or fail. And if it fails, it goes back to the developer. As I said, it come back for the test again. Let me close this document and go to the presentation one more time. The next step is the integration test, right? And the integration test is actually integration between multiple modules, and we have to have the test plan. So we're going to do the execution part test plan. We'll document the test scope, which is the multiple modules and the sub modules. It has to be end-to-end process. We're going to document the results, documentation of draft user and support document, because once the integration test is done, it will go for the user to do the testing, and it has to be reviewed by PM/architect before the UAT. And the owner of those documents, primary is that lead architect or functional designer, secondary is developer, and sign off is PM or architect. They will sign off on this document. This document of the integration test, there is a key difference between the integration test document and the functional test. It will have the same two tabs, two or multiple, but it will have the header tab, which is in common, and the tester name, who is doing the test, his detail, functional designer name, and the overall status. And here we're going to do the test based on a scenario. The scenario, if I may say that, a scenario will cover multiple modules and functions. One of the example based on our blueprint of DXGrid is that, for example, that we're going to create a support user, and that's one scenario. And the other scenario would be that create DXGrid admin user, and then other scenario is change password for support user. And then you're going to have multiple scenarios depending on your application, right? And you're going to have the role, that who is going to execute the scenario, and what are the descriptions. Coming to scenario detail, right? You have the different steps in a scenario. Scenario you can think of is that what are the different steps I have to do to complete one particular function. When I say function, let me restate that it's a process. Scenario is a process. So in this case scenario, we have the A9 steps or the process steps, and we can have that first one, a launch URL, right? Enter admin username and password. Dashboard, we have to see the what are the user menu we have in the dashboard. We're going to enter the user detail in the user module. Once we save it, we log out, we launch the URL again. We enter that username and the password and click login, the newly created user detail. Then we validate the dashboard with the authorization profile and log out. So here you can see there are two different modules which are being used. One is that login, the other one is the user. So a given scenario or the process, it crosses multiple modules and functions, and we're going to have different scenarios, and once all the scenarios are tested according to the test plan and everything passes, then we're going to go for the the user acceptance test. Going to the presentation. So next slide is that when the integration test is done, is complete, right? We're gonna start with the final preparation, and which is like user acceptance test, asset list, the objects that we developed, and the cutover plan, how we're gonna migrate these changes of the objects into production, and the support documents that we derive from the integration test, all the user documentations, because after the integration test, the tester has to document all the steps that need to be done for a given scenario, and that is to be given to the UAT. And once that is used in the UAT, no issues, everything goes fine, then we're gonna name those as support documents, right? And that will be part of the final preparation. So we will take a break and come back for the third session, and then we're going to complete this project execution. See you in a bit. Thanks.